Shalom. Welcome to our daily class from Nachman on Patreon. Now we're here in Nar Shalom in Jerusalem. Well, Jerusalem is being built in every corner, every street, new houses, new buildings, new roads, and it's constant noise. So I'm here, tucked away in a little side hallway of the yeshiva, trying to get away from the noise of the giant tractor next door. But just to give you an idea, the building and rebuilding of Jerusalem is a prophecy happening before our eyes. And this is the way God works. It's a prophecy that happened in one day a long time ago in the mouth of a tzaddik, but it takes thousands of years to unfold. But think about that for a minute, that a prophecy is not just a one moment event. It's a long unfolding process to rebuild the great city of Jerusalem, and maybe to rebuild our lives and to rebuild our hearts. So stay with that idea. We're starting a new Torah today, Torah Kaf Daled. Grasping the Infinite is the title of this Torah because you can't grasp the infinite. But usually we start out trying to. And trying to grasp the infinite is not a terrible thing. But it can be frustrating because it's anti-intuitive to think that me, a finite being, can grasp an infinite being. But what we were going to learn from this Torah from Rebbe Nachman is that we can draw him, we can draw the infinite closer, and at the moment of great attachment, God grasps us. And it's a moment that you will never forget. Okay, so the Torah of Rebbe Nachman begins with the Gemara, Amru lei, Emseita da'alma hecha. The wise men asked the rabbi. These are the wise men of either the Beit Midrash in Eretz Israel, it could be in Pumbedita, it could be in Surah, and it also sometimes could be in Athens or in Rome. But they asked him, where is the center of the world? He pointed his finger right here. Amarlu hacha. Here is the MC Olam. Here is the middle of the universe. Right here. Amrule. Miyamar kacha. Who says that your finger is the middle of the world? Amar says, Aitum ashlu v'mashchu. Tavi hebel, bring a rope and we'll pull on it. And you'll see the hevel navilano ein sof baruch hu. Now, of course, he calls it at the middle of the world. He doesn't ask for the infinite being. But we understand intuitively from our learning, of course, and the business with the Kabbalah and chassidus, that we talk about the infinite being, he is the center of everything, including the center of the world. So Rebbe Nachman now begins his own words, Da sheyesh or. We should know there's a light. It is above the nefesh, the body, soul, the ruach, the emotional soul, and the nishmatim, the soul we relate to as intellectual, but it is not only intellectual because there's many levels of neshama. Or Ein Sof. But above all of them is the infinite light. The light that has no end. Literally, Ein Sof. It has no end. So, Avapi she'ena sechol mesigoto, a human mind cannot grasp or Ein Sof. Afal pichen, nevertheless, redifa de machshava de mirdaf avatre. So he brings a very interesting sentence. Even though we cannot grasp the infinite being, the pursuit of the mind, redifa de machshava, the running of the mind, lemirdaf avatre, goes after that which it is wants. So your mind runs after anything that you put in it. Now, of course, that's a combination with the heart, but the two work together. And through this running, as a sechel mesigoto, and then doing so, the mind grasps, mesig, comprehends. It's probably a better word. Comprehends the infinite being. B'chinat mate v'lo mate. And this is the concept we have in the Kabbalah and the Zohar. Mate lo mate. Touching, not touching. Getting close, pulling away. Touching, not touching. It's not so hard to understand, right? It's kind of like a loose wire. The spark jumps across the wire to wire, then it pulls back. There's a moment the spark is connected, there's a moment the wires are not connected. Touching, not touching. Mate lo mate. Ki be'emet efshar lasigot. Because in truth, really, how can a finite being comprehend the totality of the infinite that has no end? Ki hu lemala minafshin uchin nuach neshama. Because he is above all these levels of our soul. Now he could have said, "Anachnu ein sof baruch hu lemala mikol makom uzman." It's also true. He's above time and space. But here he gives us the parameter above the levels of the human soul, which is going to have more import as we go through this Torah. Okay. And now he goes with another condition that makes it harder. We should know that it's impossible to comprehend the eternal, even mate lo mate. He just told us you could do it, and now he tells you you can't. That's wonderful, right? We want to endure this contradiction for a moment. Don't suffer. Just hold on. Endure it. But he tells us, now he gives us the sweetness. He tells us we can experience the infinite mate lo mate. Touch it, not touch it. Go close, pull back. How? Through doing the mitzvot with joy. Because why? Why the mitzvot? Why can't I just do a good deed? Because it's a good thing. Why do I have to do what's written in the book? Well, you can do a good deed, and your mind can connect that good deed to the mitzvot of the Torah. But that's your job, to make the connection. But the mitzvot, as they're written in the Torah, honor your mother and father, keep the Shabbat, etc., those are God's will. So when you do His will, you join His will. And when you join His will, guess what? You can touch Him. He can touch you. You can comprehend. In the moment of the doing, in the moment of the action, you comprehend. You stop doing, comprehension will go away. You do another mitzvah with joy. Joy now. Joy is we could talk about joy a long time, right? They don't want to talk about joy too much. You just want to experience it. Okay. But he tells us we can't do this. Ki al yedei simchat ha-mitzvah, nishlam ha-kedusha, umala ha-chiyut va-kedusha, shebeklipot, bebechinat achar asar samanei ha-ketorah. Now this is a very deep understanding of Kabbalah. He tells us, through doing the mitzvah with joy, we complete the kedusha. What does that phrase mean? Nishlam ha-kedusha. We complete the kedusha. And we elevate the life force. We elevate the life force and the holiness that is connected to the Kedusha. So two concepts here, Kedusha, which is holiness, and life force, which is a general term, chiyut, is, when you have life force, usually it gets expressed as desire. So when those two when you have your desire, which is life force, and you channel it into the Kedusha, then you cause an elevation. Which were in a negative place. Listen closely. This is an extremely important secret. Let's say you have a desire for a candy bar, and you know it's not good for you. You say, I'm not going to eat this candy bar. I'm going to take the desire for the candy bar, I'm going to put it in learning a Mishnah, opening a Zohar, saying a Tehillim. I'm going to take that desire and I'm going to just pull it away from candy. I'm going to put it on the book. Now you say, well, Avraham, I could learn the Mishnah and I'm still going to want the candy bar. Well, that really means that I haven't put all my desire in what I'm doing. But when we drag, we pull, that desire for a physical thing, especially a thing that's not good for some people. I'm not saying chocolate's not good for everybody, come on. That would ruin some people's world. But the truth is, the Torah is the true candy, of course. The highest value, the place that you put your desire in this, the will of God attaches you to the will of God. And then with joy, you experience that oneness. So we're not talking about little things, really, because this experience, when you have this experience, your whole avoda changes. You become that which you are doing in the mind of the one who wants you to do it. Think about that. You become, in other words, by your aligning your will with his will, you enter his will. And entering his will, like you're jumping in the river of God's endless thinking, God's endless desire. And it is endless, and we don't know it. You could tell. I just looked at a map, right? They say that the known universe is 150 billion light years. Do you know what a billion light years is? Not 150. Do you know what a light year is? Do you know what a billion is? Well, I've heard of billionaires. They got $1 billion. You need a big room to hold a bunch of those George Washingtons. No, we have no conception of those numbers. We give them names, but we really can't conceive of it. God goes further, much further, much further than 1 billion or 150 billion light years. Because that's only the physical world. What about the spiritual realms? But as big as God is, he still makes himself available to tiny little creatures like us. It's a wonderful thing. Especially by doing the mitzvah with joy. Now, doing the mitzvah with joy, we elevate the kedusha and the life force from the external forces. These external forces, we call them klipot. Klipot, it means husks or shells. The external, and an orange, it's the orange rind, and in a walnut, it's that hard shell. Okay? Everything has klipa because of the vessels that we receive and give with. Right? If I want to give you money even, let's say, you need a vessel for that. It might be a dollar bill. It might be a Bitcoin. It might be a few numbers in your bank account. But there's still a vessel, something there that represents power. Even if it's just little electric pixels on your screen in your bank account that go up, that's power. It's a representation of power, but it still has a vessel, those little electronically generated numbers. Now, this is what we do, and we pull, by doing the mitzvah, we pull those sparks out of those places and raise them up. And this is an aspect of the 11 spices of the Ketoret. The 11 spices of the Ketoret, of course, are herbs that are found in the world. Okay. Why do they represent this whole concept of elevating the Kedusha? Because we take these spices, we grind them well, mix them together, and create the incense for the Beit HaMikdash. Now, that spice that was growing out in your backyard is elevating the scent of the entire world. Because God can smell. God knows what smells good and bad. That's why certain things don't smell good, because he wants to stay away from them. They have, there are problems with things that smell bad, rotting food. Don't eat it. So, but the spices have a spark of God in them. Now, let's say I want to take the spice and do something bad with it. I don't elevate the spark. Let's say I take the spice and mix it with 11. Now, we can't do this nowadays because we don't have a Beit HaMikdash, so we can't mix those 11 spices. But if you could, then instead of doing something bad with the spice, you bring it to the Beit HaMikdash, and it becomes a holy thing. You have elevated that desire. Because the plant that grew also had a desire. The plant that grew wanted to grow. That's its desire. You took its desire and connected your desire to the growth of the plant, and then you put it in the Had Esrei Samanei Ketoret, and then you elevated all of them B'Ratzon Hashem. Because his desire is in those desires. Shell, light, each vessel is holding another aspect of desire. From God's desire all the way down to John's desire. And to the cinnamon and the galbanum and all the other spices that are in the Ketoret. But that's why the sages put the Ketoret Mishnayot in the Siddur in the morning davening, because the whole davening process is this elevation of the sparks of creation into praise and devekut to Hashem. So he tells us, Ki haklipot hem bechinat motorot. The external shells, the physical shells, are called excess. We need them, but we don't want them, right? If you give something to somebody, they don't need the wrapper. They might keep it, right? Okay. But if you give somebody something and it comes in a package, generally people throw away the package. You could call that the klipa of the item that you gave to somebody. The giving is holy. It's a good deed. It's giving something good, right? But the klipa of the thing, the package, you throw away. We don't need the klipa. That's why it's called motorot, the excess, what you don't need. Now there are motorot at every level as well. Excesses at every need. Apparently God deemed I didn't need hair, so it came out. Rebbe Nachman says the motorot of the mochin, the mental power, goes out through the hair. So it's not a bad thing to be bald. It just means that you moved off some motorot, some excess. Don't worry, John. Don't worry. You can keep your hair. It looks fine. Okay? But that's what it is. Now there's motorot of food, the excess that comes out of our body from food, right? And there's motorot of the fluid of the body when you sweat. It's taking poisons out. Those are all called motorot. So they're also important to us. Okay. So the spices themselves have this concept of motorot, and bechinat atzvut. Now he takes it to another whole level. He relates it to the emotional well-being of a human being, which is quite a leap. He says this idea of the motorot, the klipot, is also connected to sadness, the opposite of joy. Being sad is really against all of creation, because God wants to create. That means he has joy in the idea of creating us, especially. And the whole world has this capacity to represent or to channel joy. If you look at a tree or a bear, well, maybe not a bear in the zoo, they look pretty sad sometimes. But you look at creatures as they are in nature, even though they're hunting and they're doing what they do, there is joy in what they do. There is joy in all of nature. Az yiranenu kol atzei ya'ar. It says that, and then all the trees of the forest will sing. And the rabbis say, well, wait a minute. They're not singing? No, they are singing now. We just don't hear it, because our ears are not yet in tune to the song of the trees. But they're singing. So that means they have joy. So perhaps we're going to end today's introduction to this long Torah. It's another one of these. No, it's not so long. Oh, we should finish this in a couple of years. No, I'm joking. Right, it'll be a couple of days. But today's Thursday, so we're going to finish with that idea of joy. To be joy is your natural state. To be unhappy is the unnatural state. Remember that. God creates with joy. When we do his will with joy, we attach to his will. If I don't have joy, something's missing. And we've been learning about that on and off in various ways, and we'll continue. But you should be blessed with joy for this week and for all the days of your life. We'll continue on the Erev Shabbat talk tomorrow. We'll be on the web yeshiva tonight with a class of Rebbe Nachman on healing. We'll be on Lighthouse with a teaching about creativity and writing and prayer. So there's a lot of stuff happening, and we'll continue. Hopefully, next week is my birthday, so I hope to publish this new book on my birthday or around there, give or take a few million years. But God bless you all, and we look forward to seeing you again.